This is Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. An informal chats with top business moguls as they share their stories of failure and success in a fun and relaxed way. Get entertained, educated, and unlock the secrets to success.
Welcome to Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman. I am back with my friend Jennifer Hutchins, the founder and president of All Entertainment Business. Jennifer, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, when we ended the last program, you mentioned to me a bunch of shows that you've been working on, from Adam Carolla to some of the others. These are very popular shows, so you're doing some amazing work. I think you even mentioned working on Dr. Phil in one of our conversations. Tell us about what you've done. So what's unique about what you bring to the conversation? I've always wanted to get the inside understanding and track on the movie and TV and film industry. And that's you. You've been on so many amazing programs, but tell our audience some of what you've worked on. I'm sure you have some really cool stories.
All right. Well, let's see. I'm going to try to categorize things here.
Okay.
So, in the last episode, we talked about me producing magic for over 100 episodes and specials. So where do you go from magic? You go to ghosts. So I produced Ghost Hunters International for about nearly 40 episodes, I think. And then another show called Haunted Collector. Those were both sci-fi. And then there was a show, Trending Fear, on Travel Channel, and a 2-hour special called Fear Buried Alive. Eli Roth was one of the people in that. And so I spent years in the paranormal space, traveled to thousands of haunted locations. I was slimed. I heard disembodied voices. I saw things that were not there.
When you're traveling around the world, how large is your production crew? Is this just you and a camera? How large of a production is it?
All of them depend. But usually it's 2 or 3 cameras, and then 2 or 3 camera assistants. And then there will be a lead producer with 2 or 3 other producers below them.
Right. And
then maybe 4 or 5 production assistants, a coordinator, a production manager. It's a team. So we're looking at about, on the smaller end, 10. On the bigger end, 50.
Wow. 50 is a lot. Okay. That's impressive.
Depending, if we are filming at a big fortress or castle, it's going to be a bigger crew.
Right.
There's a lot more grounds to cover. And also, if we need to be on a 5-day calendar or a 6-day, we might need rotating crews.
Okay. Well, walk us through that real quick. What you've done is absolutely amazing. I'd love to hear about your ghost stories. But what's the difference between a 5 and 6 day for someone listening and trying to learn what you've had an opportunity to learn about the industry?
Well, it means we're putting 5 shoot days on the calendar, or 6 shoot days.
And how long is a shoot day? Just
a shoot day in TV series is 12 hours on the schedule.
Wow.
That doesn't include lunch. So lunch is an unpaid hour or half hour. So really you're there for 12 and a half or 13 hours as legally scheduled.
Right.
So if you're a producer, your day is really 16, 17 hours because you're doing prep before and prep after, to get for your next day. So a lot of times we'll have big teams of producers because we need to hopscotch each other. So I'll take an episode, somebody else will take an episode, and so on. Or we might even just break it up by segments, so that we can, not die of lack of sleep.
So that brings up an interesting point, and I hate to put you on the spot for this, but if you're doing a filming internationally, some other country, how does it work then relative to U.S. law? Like which law governs you at that point if you're abroad?
You have to go by the law of whatever country you're in.
Okay. And that's normal. I was just kind of curious how that worked out because the laws vary so widely across the world.
Yeah. I mean, whatever deal you set up with your crew is going to go across the board.
Right.
I'm producing from Texas at this point in time, and we go by LA standards when we hire crew. It's just sort of this unspoken expected
normal. Yeah.
Even though the work hours are by law are different than California, we stick to the California, industry standards.
Right.
So yeah, I just wanted to sort of theme things out for you on the things I've done. So it was magic, ghosts, and then I went into cars. I shot a bunch of car shows, including the car show with Adam Carolla, which, by the way, the car space is very fun space to be in.
I remember the Pimp My Ride shows series, which was big during a period of time. So what was it like then, the car show series?
That was working a lot with the advertising and promotion for supercars.
Okay.
So on the car show, it was Adam Carolla, and then there was a guy named Dan Neal who was the only Pulitzer-winning car writer at the time, and so he had contacts to every press car in the country. So he sort of passed those over to me, and I started calling all the press people saying, hey, can you send us a Lamborghini? Can you send us a Porsche? Can you send us this? And I would explain to them the story that we were wanting to shoot with that car, and they would either say yes or no.
Right.
That sounds. And so they have these traveling cars just for the purpose of shows like mine to go have their guest appearance. So what was really fun though is I would have sometimes a few $1 million worth of, or actually probably closer to $10 million worth of cars getting dropped off to my production office, handed the keys and said, see you in a week.
So they would ship these cars from around the country and deliver them to your production office. That is so cool.
Yeah. And, we would do racetrack days with the cars and sometimes. And the racetrack was, I think, an hour or 2 hours outside of LA. And they didn't want to drive and drop the cars off there. So we had the horrible task of, taking a, Bentley or something, and driving it ourselves over there.
Oh,
so,
gosh.
I'd have so many cars. I'm like, all right, who wants what? You want the Bentley? Okay. You want the Lamborghini?
Wow. That's incredible. I was driving on the 405 once in Southern California, and there were these 3 beautiful cars, these race cars that pulled onto the freeway. And right in front of me was this other car that lost control of the car as these were pulling onto the freeway. All of those beautiful, shiny new cars, sports cars, crashed. And they looked like they were being delivered to some new buyer. Oh, I was so heartbroken. So I can't imagine the terror of one of the crew members driving this Lamborghini and the fear of having something go wrong.
Well, our Lamborghini got hit we had a Lamborghini Murcielago. We did a car race through downtown New York during rush hour of who could make it through rush hour quicker. A Lamborghini Murcielago with the lead singer of AC/DC driving, a subway pedestrian with a guy from a car magazine walking,
right.
And then the host of our show, Matt Farah from SmokingTire.com, on a Vespa.
Right.
And then I was in a helicopter hovering, filming the whole thing, which on hindsight, I should have put giant orange X's on the roof of the car and the helmet because they were very hard to follow.
Right.
Do you want to know who won?
Yes.
The subway pedestrian.
Okay.
Because, the race consisted of like,
right.
they're just like waiting in traffic.
Trying to get through New York traffic. That's hilarious.
But, everything we did on that show. Oh, so it culminates though. Like we finish, right? Okay. We just, that's a wrap for this shoot. The subway pedestrian won. And I'm calling some of the team, like, I think it was Dan Neal was it Dan Neal? No, maybe it was one of the producers. And I was like, okay, yay, that's the wrap. Let's go, get something to eat. And they were like, I cannot do that right now. a New York bus just hit the Lamborghini.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And he said, no, but good news is, well, first off, the bus driver came out and said, I didn't do it. They realized immediately what they had done. But luckily, there was a police officer across the street that witnessed the whole thing go down. But I was horrified because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to make the phone call to Lamborghini and tell them the car I just borrowed got hit by a bus.
So how did that conversation go?
I decided to call Dan Neal first. He was the Pulitzer Prize winning Wall Street journalist.
Right.
And I said, do you want me to call Lamborghini or do you want to take this one? And he said, oh gosh, okay. Oh, all right. Really? Okay. All right. I'll take it. Okay. I'll call.
That's hilarious. Now, have you had I presume you had Bugatti on the program as well?
Oh, yeah.
It's a beautiful car.
Yeah. That was fun. I don't think I actually got to drive that one though.
Okay.
But it was interesting because at this point I had produced hundreds of episodes of television, and it was my job to oversee the producers, and I had also people that were writing scripts for cars. And it was funny because I got hired on this job because I said, I'm from Michigan and I grew up in a Ford town, and I had to learn how to change my own oil and tires myself. The boys would not let me drive my own car if I didn't know how to do this because I might get stranded. And then they said, great, that's good enough for us. You're hired. And I think they thought I was more of a car expert than I felt I was. So I hired a team of car writers under me because there's a special skill to write for that sort of audience. They will catch on if you're not a real car person.
Absolutely.
So they would write their car scripts, and then I would take it and put frosting on it and make it interesting. So the first time I met Adam Carolla, I was so excited because I'd grown up hearing Loveline and The Man Show and all these funny things that he had done. And the first time I met him, he said, "Hey, hi, nice to meet you. Who wrote the script?" And I said, "Oh, I did." And he said, "Okay, don't try to be funny." And I was like, "Okay." Did Adam Carolla just call me not funny? Oh, it was just so sad.
The show went on, it did well.
My ego at that time probably needed a good punch, so there it was.
But the show went on and did well. How many episodes did you say you recorded?
We did 10 episodes of that, I believe, maybe 20. I'm forgetting now. This was in 2009. We were the top rated series. It was supposed to be the US version of Top Gear.
Right.
We were the top rated series on Speed Channel at that time. And then they didn't greenlight it for a second season, which was bizarre.
Okay. Very interesting.
So unfortunately, but went on to do a couple other fun car shows. One was for Spike. It was called To Catch a Car Guy.
Okay.
They loved it, and then they threw it in the garbage. They decided not to move forward with the whole series because we only shot the pilot episode, and Adam Carolla was an executive producer on that, and we used he's got a car garage that's fantastic.
Right.
But they decided their identity was starting to change. They're like, we've decided we want to be more appealing to women, so we're going to let go of this car show.
Interestingly enough, though, Jay Leno's program on his cars is done reasonably well.
Yeah. So
what's you talk about a program that either did well or didn't do well, and then it goes away, and then it comes back. Have you seen Matlock, the reinvention of Matlock, or heard about it?
I've heard about it. I haven't watched it.
It's intriguing.
I'm too busy making TV shows to watch it.
Right. But it's fascinating how the show was really popular decades ago, and now it's back with a female lead in the program this time. It's intriguing. Now, so you mentioned your background in cars. So if you don't mind, I'd love to explore that. You grew up in a car town. Your father worked at Firestone. So you grew up in the industry. Can you tell us a little about your background from Ohio to Flint?
Yeah. So actually it was Ann Arbor, where I grew up. My dad was the CFO for Firestone headquarters. So we started in Akron, Ohio, and then he started flying back and forth to Tokyo. And the company was purchased by the Japanese and moved to Chicago. So we moved to Illinois, and they decided to move the company back to Akron, Ohio. So we moved back to Akron, Ohio.
Wow.
And then they laid off all the top guys, including my dad.
Okay.
So we all moved to Michigan and ended up living in a small town outside of the University of Michigan that had everybody worked at the Ford factory.
Right.
But it was a cute town. There was Victorian homes and whatnot, but everybody was really into cars.
Right.
There was always F1 racing on the television screen, and people were into muscle cars and going fast and, all sorts of stuff. So essentially, my friends raised me to be in this car world with them. So I got really good at being able to tell if because growing up, you have these beater cars, and all of a sudden when something went wrong, I could hear it and tell what was the problem. Like, oh no, the alternator is going.
So you had a real background in cars, though. Like,
yeah, okay,
really
so I deserve to get that job on the car show.
Right.
I mean, years later, I needed a jump in my parking lot in LA. And there was a doctor walking through the parking lot, and I said, "Hey, do you have jumper cables?" And he said, "Yeah, but I don't know how to use them." I said, "That's fine. I got it. Here, I'll show you how to use them."
And that worked out for you.
Yeah, he was a little demasculated, but
Oh, that's hilarious. Too funny. And Jennifer, so we discussed this briefly. You've been on all these wonderful programs, and you're now producing your own movie. What does that journey look like from either a concept to maybe a pilot to getting the funding and then getting the movie produced and distributed?
Yeah, well, first off, I had to learn how to produce movies. So my first opportunity into producing movies was a show called Most Likely to Die. It was a PG-13 horror movie. And it was from Mar Vista. So they were essentially, the network and involved in the creative process the whole time. And I actually had to move way down the food chain to hop over to films. And so I was a coordinator,
Right.
Which is a million titles below, where I was.
Right.
And I, did my same game where I stay longer, work harder, make myself useful. And then they gave me a promotion to production manager on that movie. And then I got asked to do, and also I had an in with Jake Busey. And so I got him a part in the movie, and they loved me for it. Okay. And then I jumped over to another movie called Time Toys. And it was kids that find these toys from the future. Had Ed Begley Jr. in it, Parvesh Cheena, and a bunch of kids that had quite a lot of credits. And at that point, they brought me in as a production manager. And I brought in some more talent and did some more of my, usual stay later, work longer, harder. And they upped me to co-producer. So fast forward, I'm out in Austin, and I've been producing TV series again. And I had just worked with Richard Linklater, director of Boyhood, and I was working with Bill Gutentag, who'd won a couple of Oscars and documentaries and 3 Emmys. And I had met this guy named Randall who said, "I think I have a documentary. I have about 30 plus hours of home video footage over 13 years that shows my wife go from normal to bipolar." And so I looked at what he had, and I said, "Oh my God, this is insane what you were able to capture.
Right.
It's really just earth shattering." I didn't know what bipolar really was until I watched this. And this is really near and dear to my heart because I grew up with a mother who's a retired social worker for Wayne County, Detroit area. And I always thought I wanted to do something that, helps homelessness and helps mental illness. I mean, the people on the streets that you see that are homeless, most of them have a severe mental illness that is not getting treated.
Yes.
And it's a problem. And this whole like us and them, like people need to wake up that you are closer than you think to being them.
Right.
It takes one major catastrophe to flip on that switch of schizophrenia or bipolar or all these, severe mental illnesses that can come about.
Right.
So we decided to greenlight this documentary that, with the hopes that people will start waking up.
Right. Now, so I want you to tell us where to find the movie, but I was at your premiere and it's intriguing. So I think you have to give it a little bit more perspective. The husband in the program, he was an aspiring musician from the Northwest, if I remember correctly, I think Oregon.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon.
And then his wife was a nurse. She graduated, I think, first in her class in college through nursing school. Received a job at a hospital, very established. And then she started to have her mental health challenges. And to watch their journey through life, he stayed committed to her. She stayed committed, but she was having a lot of struggles. And to see this journey was just heartbreaking, but informative and educational. And they had a daughter. And the mom, and I don't know how much I can say about this story, but it's just an incredible story, seeing that actual journey just from his videos that the husband took of that relationship and the transition and her challenges. Just amazing. Where can someone find the movie?
Spiralthemovie.com, and spiral is spelled with a Y, like you're spying on somebody, because you feel like you are spying on somebody. It's very intimate, personal footage. The fact that Randall was willing to share this with people is nuts. To be on, and we have the trailer up there, and we've also created a mental health movement called Shattering the Silence. And our partner, Legacy Lifeline, is funding $50 million to pay for audiences to receive mental health care after the screening of our movie Spiral.
Wow.
So it's not just a film. It's a movement, and we are hoping to make a lot of change. And we've even had people walk up to us after seeing the movie saying, thank you so much for what you're doing. One woman said, I run a very successful PR company, and I also have bipolar. And up until now, I was contemplating suicide. But after watching the movie, I know that that is not an option, and I feel seen and heard. Thank you.
And do you remember the actress Patty Duke?
Yeah.
Yeah. Her son was Rudy in the movie Rudy, but I had a chance to meet Patty Duke, who had bipolar as well. I met her at a conference. I worked in behavioral health care, and she spoke about her struggle with bipolar and how it impacted her career. And a lot of people didn't realize that she was struggling with it as an actress. But it's a serious mental health issue. And so the fact that you've taken this on and you're bringing additional attention to it is incredible.
Thank you. It's a rough subject to take on. And, it's been a hard road. The buyers, which are the, streamers, cable, and so on. We've struggled with them saying this is a really good project, but we don't have a space for it. And reading in between the lines, they all believe that mental health is a really hard sell to their audiences.
Right.
But at the same time, we're filling theaters. Like, people are like, oh my God, I'm going to tell people about this. This is insane. We know it's a good movie, but man, we're really going to have to plow through some doors.
You were really creative in how you pieced it together, though, because it's not like you took existing video, but how you showed the text messages and how you framed it was amazing. And how did you come up with the creative approach?
I left a lot of that in the director's hands. Bill Gutentag, I had just worked with him on 10 episodes of that animal rescue show, and I saw what beautiful stories he was able to put together about animal rescue show, and letting things breathe in the right places and then letting them intensify in other places. And he has a rhythm.
Right.
And so I wanted him to do that with this, because we were looking at 30 hours of footage. So, we went back and forth with each other, and we had a small mini team looking at various stages of the cuts. And, I would give my feedback and I would combine it with some other people's feedback. Love this. Could we add this? Can we change this? And we all worked harmoniously this sort of way. And he would take some of the notes and not agree with some of the other notes, but he would say why. And I'd go, okay, yeah, that's a good point. It was just very collaborative.
Very cool. Now, tell us about the awards, because you've already won quite a few awards based on your release thus far.
Yeah. So the way that a lot of these independent films work is that when you finish the film, you either go try to sell it, or you put it through the film festival circuit and try to build up prestige and press. So with this piece, we knew it was going to be a hard sell because it's a documentary about mental health. So we wanted to audience test and put it through the circuit and build up that sort of clout, from the tastemakers. So it got into a festival called Dances with Films, which is a fantastic festival. They told us they had over 6,200 submissions. We ended up coming in second place for documentaries out of 6,200 films. And the insiders, or the festival people, had told us we just love this film. It's an absolute must see, and they were just so supportive of it. It then got into a film festival called Chagrin Falls Documentary Fest, which only takes documentaries. And they had over 600 submissions, and we came in first place for best documentary in the U.S.
That is amazing.
So the state senator of Ohio presented that award to me.
Nice.
And I had flown to Ohio because I grew up in Akron.
Right.
And my friends drove in to come see the screening, and got to be there for that.
That is so neat. So what's next for the film?
So we just did a private screening for our investors and press in Austin, and it was the tickets sold out immediately, and it was very well received. And we interviewed people walking out of the theater this time, and we're going to post everybody's interviews on the website. So after this, I'm flying to El Paso. NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, is going to show the film in a private screening to all the mental health organizations attending the 40th annual summit. And they said once a year they pick one film that they believe sets up the problem the best for them to then talk about solutions. And so our film Spiral was chosen to be that film. So having NAMI, which is one of the most prestigious U.S. organizations for mental illness, not only pick our film, but say we believe this film's important, is a huge. I mean, that was actually at the top of our list before even figuring out the director when I started this project.
That's incredible.
We need the people, to give us the thumbs up that what we've done is, worthy of the mental health community.
Right. That's a huge, huge win for you. Now, you're on another mission as well. So you have this film and you have the addressing of mental health, but you're also on a mission to save independent filmmaking. I'm impressed with what you're trying to accomplish in bringing more people into the industry and keep filmmaking a business opportunity for many. Tell us briefly about what you're doing there and why that's important to you.
Yeah, so I founded an organization called allentertainmentbusiness.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it started as just a community providing education and resources for people in the entertainment business to help keep independent creative alive. It has grown into a production company and services, as well as a foundation, which is providing funds for people in social cause media to be able to proceed.
Right.
Because the big hardship for a lot of people is the money, and getting their projects seen and heard and out there. So we're working to not only help them get seen and heard with some financial resources, but also break through the barrier of distribution and go business to audience in a better way.
Right.
So in the next year for 2025, I'm hoping that we can report back how we've done it and it's successful, and be able to offer this to other filmmakers.
So someone is looking to get into this business, they can certainly find your organization and reach out, presumably just to learn how to become active and create independent films.
Yeah, they can reach out. They can join one of the, we do monthly meetings and Zooms and all kinds of stuff. We are also, and we can't green light them quite yet because we're still in our money raise to be able to do that. Right. So hopefully by the end of 2025, we can make the big announcement that, we're there.
Nice. Very cool. Well, congratulations on the film Spiral and what you've done and you leading the charge in independent filmmaking. I've just been impressed at everything that I've seen you accomplish. You're an amazing leader and I appreciate what you're doing for the community. Now, I have to tell you, I told my daughter the other day that you've met that I was going to speak with you on the podcast. She was so impressed by your Raven-Symoné connection. That's funny. Yeah, so, everyone may know her from either The Cosby Show or her own show, but so I have to tell you, my daughter was impressed with that.
Raven-Symoné, I worked with her on Chris Angel Mind Freak.
Nice.
We did, I think we did a celebrity party full of magic tricks.
I love it. And then Dr. Phil, I think, is now in Texas with you, right? He's filming from Texas. So I don't know if you have any connection with him or even if you have an interest in the mental health component of Spiral. But I know he's done a lot of shows on mental health as well.
Yeah, perhaps. I worked for Dr. Phil for about a year. I was a segment producer. So I would interview a lot of the guests that were going to go on the stage ahead of time. Right. And then you would see their video play in the background as he was talking to them. Like he'd say, well, let's see what so-and-so has to say. And then the video comes up and then it goes back to stage. And so whenever they were on stage, I was in the back control room, making sure my videos were
right. That is so neat. Well, the other piece I have to thank you for is bringing your talent from California and LA to Texas. Texas has a growing film industry. And it's great to see your evolution and growth, but also the evolution and growth of film in Texas.
Yeah, Texas is setting itself up to be the next Georgia with there's huge interest in making a better tax incentive right now. I was very active at Capitol Hill last year, trying to shout and scream that this is $1 billion industry and we need to step up and play in this court. And many others. There's a group called TXMPA, which leads the charge on lobbying for the entertainment business in Texas. And they've done a wonderful job. So we just had a big Senate hearing a couple of weeks ago, and Taylor Sheridan, who's bringing just tons of stuff to Texas, spoke for almost 2 hours and very clearly defined what a film does for a state and a city, and the millions of dollars that gets injected, into the restaurants and the shops and the hotels and the food and the gas and all those things. It's such an economy changer.
I love it. Jennifer, thanks for helping to decode the movie and television industry. You're quite a joy to talk to, and I look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and hopefully I decoded a little bit, or at least had some fun magic chatter going on.
I love it. Thanks for joining us on Business Decoded with Ronnie Spellman.
Thank you for listening to Business Decoded podcast with Ronnie Spellman. Please be sure to subscribe and share and stay tuned for more incredible Business Decoded episodes.